Hello, welcome to Talking Pictures, a podcast where we talk about movies, TV, and a whole lot of other good stuff we love to talk about. My name's Brian, and I'll be joined by David, my co-host, to me being the host today. David, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I love all my attempts in doing the intros and the closings. I think that's a good way for our audience to get to know me a little bit better. David, I like to call this episode a bit of a bonus episode today.
Yeah, we have a viewer submitted question that we're going to answer.
Yeah, so our question comes in today from Evan from Canada. And Evan says, "Hi guys, wondering what are some of your favourite musical biopics? And are there any artists who you would like to see in a movie about?" Well, Dave, I think Evan needs to work on his grammar just a little bit more, and his pronunciation of his sentences. I'm only reading what he says. But David, today me and you are here to discuss about, I think we can agree, a genre in itself of artists and musicians, both with us and long since gone, getting biopics about their lives.
Yeah, it seems like a very easy route to take. I think a lot of musical biopics are definitely like Oscar movies. They're put for that award season.
Yeah, it's quite common for a movie about a real life figure who's now died to gun for an Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
So the way Hollywood is going, we get Star Wars movies, we get Marvel movies, we get DC movies, we get the next Christopher Nolan or Denis Villeneuve or Tarantino or Scorsese or Spielberg movie. You know, all movies within their genre. Well, yeah, Dave, I think the musician biopic is a genre within itself. I think ever since Bohemian Rhapsody, it's been globalized almost entirely. We've had plenty of movies in the 80s and 90s and in the mid 2000s, all about an artist who, one way or another, in the shape of a form, comes to the rags to the riches, gets discovered, becomes a blowout hit,
Overnight sensation.
yeah, and in their journey of trying to change the world, succumb to the downfall of drugs or alcohol, and may or may not have a happy ending.
Yeah, it's definitely, when we were kind of discussing this beforehand, it's like the frame in which most of these biopics take is like, do you have to suffer to be a good artist?
Yeah.
And do you have to go through a hardship?
And some people might think that would be overly repetitive, and it's just the same movie over and over again. Rags to riches, great success, overnight sensation, betrayal and hardship, marriage downfalls, someone dies, a final send-off of a sing-song. Well, as of today, David, I'm not bored by it.
No, it's like you're saying there, it is in a way formulaic.
Yes.
But
Very heavily formulaic, no different than a superhero movie.
But it's also like you do get it from a different artist's perspective, and their different trials and tribulations.
And each artist is different. So if you look at the sing song at the end of Walk the Line, Johnny Cash performed in the prison. You look at the sing song in Rocket Man, an entirely different concept of a musician biopic. Elton John does sing a sing-along about his own recovery from drugs.
It's the music
and
video.
Depression.
And then Bohemian Rhapsody, we get the
Live Aid.
the whole concert essentially recreated.
And then we get something with Unchained Melody with Elvis in like what was one of his final latest performances. So it's always like, well, if we know that artist is going to die at the end of the movie because that's what happened in history, well, let's show them do this one last sing-along, sing-song, just...
Yeah, their greatest performance in a way, or like their most memorable, or something like that.
Arthea Franklin in Respect sung in a church song, not an opera, like a choir, and people were saying, no, it can't be done. Well, it can be done. Funny thing, when it has to do with a female musician, a lot of the time they get abused by their husband. Who am I talking about? Arthea Franklin, Whitney Houston, Tina Turner. All three of them husbands go to hell. Anyway, David, there's no real chronological order to discuss about the subgenre of the musician biopic, other than, I suppose, the release dates, since they captivated audiences. So they were no different than any other regular movie, unless they were a smash hit, with Great Balls of Fire, Dennis Quaid, or The Doors from Oliver Stone, where Val Kilmer played Jim Morrison. I don't know if that movie was all that great. Look, I haven't seen every movie myself. I only really see musician biopics that are released these days. I've only gone so far back to the likes of Ray, when Jamie Foxx played the blind pianist. I haven't even seen What's Love Got to Do with It, when Angela Bassett played Tina Turner. Like, I always, now we've got all these legends are now, they're getting their own stories told. Yes, well, that was told in 1993, and then I suppose the next one in that, I've seen 8 Mile, and that's a little bit similar to Get Rich or Die Trying with 50 Cent. Only that movie was just not as near as good as 8 Mile.
Yeah, I've seen 8 Mile. I haven't seen that one with 50 Cent. And is it more so a fictionalized version of that artist?
Just like 8 Mile is.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
the two of them are kind of similar in that way.
Both of them implement real life events, just a fictionalized version or dramatized events.
Yeah.
8 Mile was such a great movie. I actually watched it not all too long ago. Eminem's pretty good actor. Like, he didn't have a lot to do, but what he did is good. 50 Cent he goes around like he is an actor, and go for it. He's fine. You know, can't wait to see him in that Expendables movie. Is he coming for that Oscar?
I think if I was going for an Oscar, I would probably do it in a different route other than Expendables. That's just me, but
we'll see.
More power to him.
You know, before ever even thinking about this genre, I always thought to myself, I thought, who are great black musicians throughout the last 60 years? And I've just mentioned them with Arthea Franklin, Whitney Houston, and Tina Turner. And I like that we're building up now to other godlike figures. Because when I think about, let's say, 3 different musicians who are in different eras at the peak of their time, I would think of Frank Sinatra, I would think of Elvis Presley, and I would think of Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And I always thought, as widely different as they were all loved for what they did. And we got 2 biopics from out of those 3. So far, we've got a couple of interpretations of Elvis biopics, but like Kurt Russell played him, but that was for a made-for-TV movie. So that was.
I think he played him again. I think he played him twice, actually.
Did he really?
Yeah, I could be wrong with that, but I think I read somewhere that he played him twice.
Well, for me and pretty much everyone else listening to us, the Elvis biopic is the one with Austin Butler, just released last year.
Yeah, that's the grand scale.
Yes.
The name in lights Baz Luhrmann version, and it's the one that I think will go down in history as the kind of definitive the Elvis movie.
Yes. So think of it in a way is that we will not get another movie about this musician played by a certain actor because we've already got it. So I remember scanning through YouTube, listening to one of my podcasters saying, I want a musician biopic about the Doors, and the guy said, well, we did get one. I was like, yeah, no, but I want another one, a better one. I'm like, dude, get out of the queue. You've already got what you wanted, alright? We can't redo things. You want to redo something, do it in another format or another medium where you may or may not get the rights to the music. Which, when it comes to Walk the Line, that was, I think, one of the original classics, even though it was only released in 2005.
It's the first one I've seen. Of all these ones we're going to talk about, Walk the Line was the first one. And I think it might have been the first kind of biopic that I maybe saw.
Right.
And I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I wasn't really a big fan of Johnny Cash either. I knew like,
But you like his music.
Ring of Fire,
hearing it, yeah.
Yeah, like from my parents playing it and stuff like that. Like you'd recognize songs.
Yeah. Same with me. Like when my dad or my uncle driving us around, the Ring of Fire would be one of those fun favorite songs just playing. I remember our uncle driving me, maybe one or two of my sisters, and a bunch of us cousins driving around the bumpy hill of his yard playing the Ring of Fire for the crack, and it was fun. And I knew when I saw it, it was a grown up adult movie. I was too young to watch it and appreciate it, but you know, I got the sense, I got the gimmick, and hey, directed by our good old James Mangold. Yeah, good on him for that. And he got the music. That's another thing. In my opinion, a musician biopic does not count as what it's labeled to be if they don't have the rights to the music.
100%, yeah.
So when you think of...
What's the point?
Yes.
It just doesn't make sense.
So it's a shame to do a musician biopic about someone and do it without their music. It's almost like you had this one chance to pull this off. Doesn't matter if it doesn't turn out great. That's not every movie's gonna be great. You tried, you missed. Okay, fine. But when you try it and you don't have the music, you have lost the opportunity to pull something off so great for audiences to go to a cinema and sit down and love the music, to kick their feet to the floor and just keep going. These could be fans of... Imagine being a fan of a musician and like, they're doing this movie and this music, this guy's playing them. And, you hear the music in all the trailers. And the music's not in the trailers. Yeah. The music's not in the movie. And you're like, this is kind of boring.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like the music has to be there to keep you engaged.
Yeah. I don't know why you would choose to do that. It's like if you watched, I'm going to watch a movie, we're going to make a movie about Messi and his the start of his career to winning the World Cup last year.
Yes.
Right? But we never show him once playing football.
That is pretty much the equivalent.
What's the point? Yeah. Like, that's the story. Is if you're doing a movie about an artist, the music... It just makes sense that you would have it, and it's so stupid to not. It's like you're starting a race and you've cut off both your feet before you start. Like, there's no point in doing it. If you're not going to get the music, what's the point?
It's almost like it's almost an insult to it.
Yeah, and it's like you didn't care enough to get the thing that we're all here for.
Yeah, and well, there is a movie, and it's not on my letterbox list because I don't want it near there because I don't count it.
Yeah,
It's called Ziggy, or it's called Stardust.
Yeah.
It's played by some guy who I'm not going to mention for his own safety. He plays David Bowie.
Yeah.
In his realm of his depiction of Ziggy's Stardust, the Martian.
One era of David Bowie's career.
Yeah. Not the entirety of his life or anything like that, just one little aspect. And instead of, they didn't get the rights to the music, but they still went with the movie anyway. And... when it comes to, like, I suppose, musical scenes in the movie, they just created their own music that would sound like it, but not enough of it to, I guess, warrant being sued for copyright infringement. Yeah, what is the point? What is the point of that? It's like, here's well, Dave, I got a couple of flashbacks for our listeners today about some interesting topics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Laura, do you want to cue the music there? Good on you, Laura. One day we'll get a musician biopic about you.
I'd watch that. Just her working on that little jingle.
David, my flash fact today, the first one. In the topic of directors getting their choice of musician biopic off the ground, you gotta get the rights to the music. Well, Martin Scorsese, pretty much the godfather of the gangster genre, right? For 2 different attempts in his life, Martin Scorsese tried to do a musician biopic. I just keep saying it, musician biopic instead of musical biopic. He tried to do one on Frank Sinatra. Well, he tried to get one off on the ground in the early 2000s in the hopes of getting John Travolta to play him.
John Travolta?
Yeah,
that's
a
interesting.
young John Travolta
Yeah.
in Frank Sinatra.
Interesting.
Well, it didn't really go that way back in that day. And then he tried again in the second attempt, more so than I believe than the last one, with Leonardo DiCaprio tied to play Frank Sinatra.
I could see that more than John Travolta.
I can as well. But David, and I'm quoting, Sinatra's estate won't agree to it. Why? Well, because certain things are very difficult for a family, and I totally understand. But if they expect me to be doing it, they can't hold back certain things. The problem is that the man was so complex. Everybody is complex, but Sinatra in particular. That's what Martin Scorsese said when he was trying to get his movie about Sinatra off the ground. He wanted to show some of the proven facts that yes, Frank Sinatra did have associations with the mob. Bugsy Siegel and Lucky Luciano and a load of other mob figures were frequent visitors of his venues. Sinatra could have gotten some gold rushes in his time with the aid of that, and he was always safe for it. But Sinatra's estate don't want that. They don't want the messy ugliness, the illegal thing. They want to keep the identity safe for Frank Sinatra, whether or not people know. They just don't want that depicted and portrayed on screen. And because of that, I guess not only was Martin Scorsese not able to get the music rights, he wasn't gonna be able to make the movie at all. I'm sure Sinatra's estate would have just pushed so hard against it. So thank you, Sinatra's estate. We did not get a biopic on Frank.
But I understand the reasoning behind that, where your family don't want to see ill of you or see a bad depiction. Not so much a bad depiction, but you being depicted in a negative way.
Yes.
So I understand that. But then also, like you said there, thank God that Martin Scorsese didn't, okay, well, we'll push forward then and we just won't get the rights to it and we just won't have the songs. Like we're saying there, what's the point in doing it? So I'm glad that he was able to go, put it to bed and go, okay, if we can't do it properly, we won't do it.
And I'm so delighted for that. As much as I do want one, I'm delighted that Martin Scorsese, the legend author that he is, he decided, no, okay, then this is not the movie I want to make, so I can't make it.
Yeah.
And I think, would you agree, David, that Martin Scorsese directing a Frank Sinatra movie is like perfect.
The fact that he does have the ties to the mob,
it's almost in his realm.
Yeah.
But not entirely. He doesn't need to make the whole movie focused on that. It can just be a part of it. And I'll be honest, David, with these biopics about musicians, I feel like I'm informed a little bit more on their lives. Doesn't matter if they're fictionalized events or dramatizations. I feel more informed. I'm going home to look up, did this person do this? Did this really happen?
Yeah.
How real is this? And some of it's real, some of it's not, but I think it works for me. But maybe one day.
I've got a flashback for you.
Okay, give us a flashback.
This is about now 2 movies that we didn't discuss yet. We're kind of, as you were saying, that we're moving through the years.
Okay.
So 2 later movies that we're going to discuss, Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocketman.
Yeah, released in 2018 and 2019.
Yeah. So both films feature a character by the name of John Reid.
Yeah.
He was the manager for both. He was Elton John's partner and his manager, and then he became the manager of Queen. Rocketman was directed by Dexter Fletcher. And Dexter Fletcher actually directed a heavy portion of Bohemian Rhapsody as well. Now,
after he pitched it originally.
Yeah.
He wanted to do his own version, which I don't know how different it was going to be, but...
Well, I think, Bryan Singer was the director on the film, but Bryan Singer didn't shoot as much as Dexter Fletcher did, but because of the Directors Guild, the, crediting system, even though Dexter did direct most of it, it was still Bryan Singer that got the credit for it.
Yeah.
So, he was going to actually feature John Reed. John Reed appears in both films. He was actually going to feature him in Rocket Man, with
Rami Malek.
with Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury, because obviously Elton John was earlier than Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, it's almost like if you want to watch them in chronological order of history, you
Yeah.
watch Elton John first, then you watch Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, so he wanted to have, there was talks of having a small scene where they're in a restaurant and we look over and we see John Reed talking to Freddie Mercury, and just to kind of have that little connective tissue between, because in Rocket Man he's played by Richard Madden, and then in Bohemian Rhapsody he's played by Aidan Gillen. So we would have seen like a little bit of an aging, a change of actors. So even though they've got the same name and they're different actors, they are very much the same person.
Why do you think he decided against that?
I think, where did I read it? I think I read somewhere that he said like he thought about it, but he said, you know what, I'm not trying to create a cinematic universe here. Like these movies could just be separate, and they're just the same actor. You don't need to have, like, it would have been a very cool Easter egg.
Yeah.
And it's very much of the time.
On the one hand, you think, oh wow, watch all these musician biopics, a telling of, let's be real, America and England. Mm-hmm. That's as far as we'll go. Like, but just the developmental stages of the music industry portrayed in England and America, watching them in chronological order. It's like watching World War II movies in order of the date they're set in. That would be interesting. But on the other hand, I suppose if I couldn't imagine they would get Aidan Gillen in the Rocket Man scene, it would have to still be Richard Madden still playing the same character he's been playing in that entire
To make
movie.
sure you knew that it was him.
Still him.
Yeah.
And then you'd have Rami Malek just sitting like at you see the back of his head, and I don't know, he turns around and you see there's Rami Malek. Got the mustache. He's playing Freddie Mercury.
It would have been definitely a bit of a takeout moment where you're like, oh, look at that. I know that. And probably he didn't want that for his movie, because he's telling one story. He doesn't need to service another story.
Yeah.
So.
It's just funny with all these musician movies, like they mention other characters. Like Elton John is mentioned in Bohemian Rhapsody. The Beatles, particularly John Lennon, is mentioned in Rocket Man. In the late great Chadwick Boseman starring movie of James Brown, Get On Up, the Rolling Stones are in the start of that movie, and they're like sort of by no fault of their own pushing James Brown out of his starring stage performance.
Elvis is in Walk the Line.
Elvis
very early
is
scene.
Yeah, a very young Elvis.
Yeah,
as well.
It's only that, like one or two scenes.
Yeah,
just them like drinking together or something like that. Like it's relevant to the time. If these actors or if these musicians would have been in the same circles, then yeah, sure, put them in it. You know? That makes sense.
It's kind of funny how that, what goes around comes around type of thing. Oh, and we did have other musician biopics later in the years with Biggie Smalls and Tupac. I don't know if those movies were particularly good, with or without their music.
I didn't see the Tupac one. I know that, I'm pretty sure it's the same actor that plays him in Straight Outta Compton.
I'm not sure.
I think he appears in Straight Outta Compton and then he's into obviously the Tupac movie, but I couldn't tell you.
Well, I'll tell you this, David. Straight Outta Compton is how you do it.
Yeah.
That's almost like an equal threesome of Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, and Eazy-Z. I thought that was so great.
Yeah, it was. It genuinely was, and fantastic casting to do Ice Cube's son.
Yeah,
as Ice Cube. It was just it felt like I was watching him.
Do you know what I'm seeing in a theme of all these movies? The villain is almost always the manager.
Yeah, someone taking advantage of the artist.
So Tom Hanks in Elvis. We have Paul Giamatti in Straight Outta Compton. Mm-hmm. I suppose there's also the Michael Douglas, Matt Damon, the great Behind the Candelabra.
Yeah, I've not seen that one.
I've seen it. It's alright. It's more so about Matt Damon than it is with Liberace. Liberace is also featured in Rocket Man.
Is he?
Yeah, in the scene when Elton John comes out, Elton John. I thought I said Taron Egerton, but no, I was right. I said Elton John comes out to his mother on the phone. Where are we, David? I've got a flashback as well.
One last flashback.
I got one last flash fact for you, David. It's also about another musician movie we did not get. Do you like Madonna?
I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of Madonna, but I like Madonna.
I would love a Madonna biopic. We were in the midst of getting one. It was announced in 2020, and it was going to be starring Julia Garner, who is widely known from the Ozark, and I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, yeah, definitely. She looks the part. She can probably sing. I don't know, but like, she was in one of the Nespresso ads with George Clooney.
I don't remember. I couldn't think of it.
It's one of the recent ones. But I believe because Madonna had announced a tour around the world, that's what finalised the movie to not be done and ended up being scrapped. Oh, what a wasted opportunity! Like the next sort of like tier of legendary female artists I want to see biopicized, whatever you want to phrase it. Madonna, maybe Celine Dion, but I don't know. She's not old enough yet. Or
Florence and the Machine.
No, Florence and the Machine's too young. Young being the fact that nothing has come of it yet. I think for the artists like Florence and the Machine, Imagine Dragons, Lewis Capaldi, all those musicians we get like documentary stories.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes to artists who are like, let's say they peaked at a certain time in their life, it's like enough time has been spent distancing us from now to their era. Another musician biopic, The Dirt, the Motley Crue crew. They got theirs, and it was Netflix, and it was alright. But I saw Motley Crue live not too long ago this year, and they had their movie, and they said, we had this movie called The Dirt, it was on Netflix, did you watch it? And everyone watched it, and it was great. You know, it doesn't matter if a movie doesn't turn out great. It wasn't great. It wasn't really good either. But it's theirs, and they have it, and just take pride and ownership of it. Own it. And you know what, David? They got the music rights for it.
Yeah.
And that's all you need.
Half the battle.
Yeah, but unfortunately, so Madonna, who was also going to direct this one, she was going to direct it.
Oh, okay. That's obviously, the tour then put that on hold then.
Well, I think there's reports that maybe it was cancelled beforehand, but
you never know. It might come back around again.
Hopefully.
With a different actress.
Look, there's always an opportunity to do it again. This concludes this mini segment of flashbacks for this episode. Laura, cue your music. Thanks, Laura. We'll take 50% of your cut. David, I've no stopping in saying that the music genre of real life musicians is not slowing down.
No.
Just last year in 2022, we had an Elvis, which went through the roof. We had a one that did not go through the roof, but got it nonetheless in All I Want to Dance with Somebody with Whitney Houston. And then we had another one that I would imagine is unappreciative because it didn't get the proper distribution. Weird Al.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
I did.
I didn't.
Yeah, Weird Al is... I think that it fits him very, very well. Like, it's a critique on the genre.
Right.
Like we were saying there, where does the artist need to go through some kind of struggle to be the great artist?
Yeah.
Weird Al, in real life, has not gone through a great struggle. He's just made parodies of songs, and he's become very famous for it, and he's done tours because of it, and he has lived a very good life because of it. But in the Weird Al movie, he is portrayed as having gone through a struggle and gone through these addictions and all this stuff, and it's very much a satire on the whole genre, and it's quite funny. You know, it's like, if you like that kind of, I suppose, like, it's like, have you seen Wet Hot American Summer?
I haven't.
No, like, it's like Saturday Night Live kind of humor, like, you know, just like insane scenarios that are just like as long as you're on board with it, you're fine. You'll enjoy it. You know, if you go into it expecting Bohemian Rhapsody and Walk the Line and Rocket Man and stuff, that's not what you're gonna get. You're gonna get like just a bit of a fun little time.
But I saw the trailer. Would you class it in the tier near Rocket Man in the sort of fantastical fantasy?
No.
No.
Like it is very much like a high budget. Like I don't mean this in a mean way, but I mean it like it's like a high budget YouTube video.
Played by Harry Potter.
Played by Harry Potter, yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe played Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah, and Evan Rachel Wood played Madonna.
Oh, Madonna!
Yeah, so like it's good. It's fine as long as you know what you're going into. And it's like, oh, it is a satire of the musical biopic, like what we're talking about. Like, and so it's fine, but it's not. It doesn't take itself seriously, which neither does Weird Al, you know, and his music. So I think it fits perfectly.
I think it's quite funny that. Yeah. Well, I just mentioned last year. Look what we have coming out next year. We already have a trailer for Bob Marley, One Love. That looks to be gunning for a bit of an Oscar push. It is too early in the year, so you know.
When is it due?
February, I think.
Feb is very, very early for an Oscar push.
Yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong, but off the top of my head, that's what I believe. And I know one for sure that is definitely being done. Hopefully, it'll get released next year. Is a Timothée Chalamet starring Bob Dylan movie.
Okay.
Also coming from the guy who did Walk the Line, James Mangold.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
And rather than being a story of his life, because you know Timothée Chalamet, he's young. It's gonna more so focus on a certain short period around his travels to a hospital or from a festival to a hospital. It's a Bob Dylan story essentially about a certain period of his life where James Mangold is able to put some drama in it. And yeah, I think that can come across very well and fit right in. I believe he does have his music. But David, I saw Bob Dylan live. Now he was, 8 years of age, but he wasn't good. So it's funny now that I've seen some of these people live and not all of them have been good. But I'm curious to know what they were like in their prime, as portrayed rightfully so.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have said about Bob Dylan is that he's not as good as an artist, but he does good songs, because most of the best versions of Bob Dylan songs are when someone else covers them.
Yeah, I was always thinking when Rod Stewart did Forever Young, I think Rod Stewart doing Forever Young is better. But I don't even know if Rod Stewart did Forever Young as the original.
I think Adele covers one of his songs as well.
Adele is another one that I would think, as a goddess as she is, could do with a biopic.
I agree. I think she does Make You Feel My Love. That's a Bob Dylan song as well.
David, we've got another one coming down the line. This is going to be quite an interesting one. Michael Jackson.
Yeah, Michael Jackson's one that like you kind of I class that in the same genre of Elvis, where what I mean by that is I'm surprised it took this long for it to happen.
Really?
Yeah. When did Michael Jackson die? So I think it was 2008, 2009, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's been close to 15 years now. I would have thought, honestly, that we would have had one sooner than now.
Yeah.
In the same way that I think that I'm surprised that it took this long to get the Elvis one. That standard of an Elvis one.
Like this, I just think about this music. Oh, Michael Jackson. You might have forgotten all these years later because it's not been around. But when you just zone yourself into the music, it just takes you back.
Yeah, that's his death. I think for me, maybe it was the first big celebrity death, but it felt like the world stopped when he died.
I think something stopped when I heard that he died, and I when adults tell you their opinions on him, you tend to copy them, use them to yourself, and like I thought, thank God he's dead because he was, a paedophile.
Yeah, he's a controversial figure one way or the other. Like
it's definitely controversial. How are they gonna depict that in this movie? Because Anton Fuqua, he's directed Training Day and a few other good movies. I think it's fitting that he's directing a Michael Jackson story where Jafar Jackson, I believe his name. It's Michael Jackson's real life nephew.
Oh, okay.
So he's going to be playing his uncle. Are they going to ignore the controversy? Are they going to Are they going to focus heavily more on how Joe Jackson, the father, pretty much abused his kids with violence, forcing them to work?
Like, is it a disingenuous movie if you ignore those things? Because they're so prevalent. Or it's so hard to think of Michael Jackson without thinking of those.
Or is it disingenuous to include them in the movie?
Yeah.
Like, are there... I feel like it's more so the media has run wild with its story and lacked focus on asking the witnesses or the victims, if there are victims. I don't know really, but like I remember Macaulay Culkin saying that is his lifestyle in like how he comes across as fantastical, as flamboyant, maybe even disturbing. But like if Macaulay Culkin says that, who spent time with Michael Jackson as a child and he's nothing bad to say about it, well, that's one opinion. I don't know about any other opinions, but it'll be interesting to see how it's done in this movie. I don't know when it's released. It doesn't have release date. I don't even know if it's being shot, but that's one that's on the way. We've covered quite a lot in the developmental stages of this industry, and I think it's just going to keep going. At some point, we're going to get someone where we really love it. Yeah. And at some point, David, me and you are going to be 50-year-old men, and Laura's going to be still making millions of her music. Whether she'll have her biopic or not, I don't know. But at some point, we're going to get one where we really love. David, I want to close this episode in a music biopic I want so badly. The Beatles.
Yeah.
I fantasize on what their type would be, because all these musician movies, they're mostly always named after a name of one of their famous songs. Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man, Get On Up,
Walk the Line,
I Want to Dance with Somebody, What's Love Got to Do, Respect. I'm just going to keep going. The only one who doesn't have that is Elvis. And there's a few you could have maybe chosen, but I think Elvis in his own right is just enough. I could even sit here and think, what would be a good Frank Sinatra title? What would be a good Madonna title?
My Way.
My Way.
Frank Sinatra, My Way.
That is so good. Oh, that is so good. But yeah, like we've had so many Beatles documentaries. Get Back, Let It Be. We even had a movie called Yesterday. I won't recommend that.
No.
Different
altogether.
Yeah, so we
and then Nowhere Boy.
Nowhere Boy, another movie that did not have the music, but I think was as innocent enough as it could be. Of course, it didn't have the Beatles music because it was about John Lennon before he joined the Beatles. And I had some music, but it didn't have the Beatles music. So it was John Lennon's early life, and it was fine. It wasn't great. Yeah, but like how can you? I don't know if Hey Jude is the right name for the Beatles. I don't know if John, Paul, George, Ringo, or the Fab Four or the Beatles. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, and I even look up fan castings of who could play them. Yeah, I think maybe one day we'll get it. Will it showcase the 10 years of them as the Beatles together, or will it showcase the next 10 years when they did their solo careers? It has some hardship as well with, John Lennon and George Harrison, and then Paul McCartney as well, and boring. Yeah, man, do the Beatles, do a biopic of the Beatles.
That's what you're hoping for.
That is what I'm hoping for. Time will stop. I will drop everything to see that movie. Have you got one, David?
My one probably would have been the Michael Jackson one. I think like I'm not as big into music maybe as you are, so they wouldn't as quickly spring to mind. Maybe like Kurt Cobain. I think his would be interesting because he's so young and obviously the I suppose a little bit of controversy around his death and the circumstances behind it and all.
It's not a fun story.
No. Amy Winehouse. I think that her she's definitely a suffering artist. I think that would be an interesting one as long as it's done like delicately and done well.
Huh, David, you've jogged a memory. We are getting an Amy Winehouse biopic. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, it's actually coming from, and I'm not looking this up as I speak, from the same director as Nowhere Boy.
Oh, okay. That's right. Okay,
So,
that doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. I'll be honest. But
if she does get the music for Amy Winehouse, great. But who is starring in this Amy? It's called Back to Black.
okay, fair enough. Yeah.
And it's starring Marisol Abella. And she had some role in Barbie. But Jack O'Connell's in it and Eddie Morrison's in it. Yeah, looks pretty good.
But she's a relative unknown.
She's definitely a relative unknown.
Okay.
Like Austin Butler was more known before Elvis. So David, we've done a lot of discussion about all these musical biopics and has been released all this time. Let me ask you first. What's your favourite? Answer Evan's question.
I would say, like you said, like we were talking about there's so many good ones. Like Elvis was really good. I enjoy Bohemian Rhapsody. Straight Outta Compton is great. Walk the Line is great as well. 8 Mile. But for me, it's Rocketman.
Okay.
Rocketman is like, I'd compare it to like Goodfellas and Forrest Gump, where if I'm walking past and it's just on, I'll just sit down and watch it from wherever it is. I don't need it to be from the start. Like it's a great movie. Like the songs, like everyone knows all the songs throughout. Something that we didn't even touch on, we didn't even discuss, like the difference between a biopic where the cast learn to sing and they sing the songs, or do you play the just the version, like the actual recordings?
That's funny because Taron Egerton, he does sing Elton John songs.
Yeah.
Whereas Rami Malek does not sing Freddie Mercury's songs.
And I think in Rocketman, Taron Egerton sings some songs. I like his versions better than Elton John's.
Yeah, fair. That's fair.
And so I would nearly, in some cases, be quicker to listen to his version than I would to the actual Elton John recordings. And I think that if you can pull that off and you pull it off well, like Joaquin Phoenix in Walk the Line did it as well.
Yeah.
And he sounded great. So I think that Rocketman for me, it's like one of those movies that I've watched it like 5 times since it came out. Like it's just so good. It's just a good movie with great songs and great performances.
Was it your favorite?
And perfect casting.
Was it your favorite? So it's your favorite actor cast as the titular musician.
Looking at everything we've talked about, yes, definitely. I think that when I saw the trailer initially and I saw it was Taron Egerton, I went, that is perfect. That is actually a perfect casting. I don't think you could have gotten anyone better to do it. And then seeing as well Taron Egerton and Elton John, like they are friends and they're friendly with each other. It's like, oh, not only is he the perfect casting and he plays it so well, he has Elton John's blessing and they're good friends. And
And it had a happy ending.
A good redemption. I highly and what's good as well is it's not just him singing his songs. There are other characters
sing along
with it. It's in a way kind of like a jukebox musical.
Yeah.
Because of that, like where other people are also singing the songs. So that's for me. What about you? What's your top of the leaderboard?
Oh, I love Rocketman.
Yeah.
But because you said it, I'd like to give this other movie the shout out it so much deserves. I actually don't know if the actors sung the songs, but they were convincing to me that they were. Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah.
The reason I choose that is because that feels like a heavy grounded movie about these black, targeted by cops, individuals, youth of men trying to make art. And I like the dynamic between Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, and Eazy-Z. Like, these three men, where they start out, how they band together, how they dispart, and what the movie ends up being. I thought it was just a very well told story. And I remember seeing the poster of it in New York. I was in New York at the time. I looked up and I'm looking at the poster, and it's these five men, and it looks like is that Ice Cube? That it says Ice Cube, and it 75% looks like Ice Cube.
Yeah.
But just not right. And the title at the bottom, the most dangerous group in the world. Or the most dangerous group in America. And I didn't know what the hell that was, and I looked it up, and it's exactly what it ended up being. And the movie turned out way much better for it. I like listening to their music. I burnt Buck the Police on one of my CDs to listen to it. It was just great. I loved it. I just loved, and then these little like Easter egg moments in their real life lives, when he's writing the script for Friday, or when they have a famous pool party that they mention, or even the sadder times in their life with the car crash, or losing a family member, or getting sick.
Yeah.
It was good for it. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's definitely one I love listening to. And it's just, what's really good about it as well is that they have a team to bounce back and forth from each other.
Yeah. There's no one main character.
Yes.
Like Elton John or
with
Johnny Cash.
With Elton John, he's on his own. He doesn't have a team at his back. There's like anyone who's against him is against him, and anyone who was with him, he's pushing away. With this group, they're all friends. They all have each other's back, and they're always together until unfortunate circumstances pushes them apart, but then pulls them back in. No man, I liked it. I liked it a whole lot more.
It's a little bit less so with like Bohemian Rhapsody, because even though their group, it is very much about Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
The group are there. I have to say actually as well, like you asked me about Elton John, and his Taron Egerton and his portrayal as Elton John.
Yeah.
Was that the most perfect casting? And I do still agree, but Willem Lee as Brian May in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh,
fantastic!
Really?
That genuinely is like Brian May, 100%. If you look up, I don't know how familiar you are with Queen, but look up Brian May in real life and then look him up in this, and he's the same. It's Brian May who's been gone back in time. Genuinely, he was pushed forward in time to be in this movie.
Do you know?
And O'Shea Jackson Jr.
O'Shea Jackson.
That's perfect casting.
Yeah, it is perfect casting. But just another bonus fact of something we did not get. Could you imagine Sacha Baron Cohen or Cohen Baron playing Freddie Mercury? Because he was going to. Do you know why he didn't?
Because of no, I don't know why exactly.
Because the members of Queen didn't want him to do the portrayal he was going to do.
Yeah.
Which was, what was it going to do? Getting into the negative and dirty him up. Not that he was clean, he wasn't clean.
No, he wanted to get into the real nitty gritty of his life.
Maybe they should have met in the middle, because at the end of the day, I don't want just that. I want to hear their music portrayed in this movie and their life. I don't want it to be all this outrageous stuff. And I think Sacha, who played Borat and Bruno and so, I think he would have done it in a respectable way. But Brian May didn't want it, and they actually wanted it to be more of a Queen-centric movie.
Yeah, I think an early draft of the script had Freddie Mercury dying halfway through.
And like the rest of the movie is about Queen trying to improve, and good man Sacha for telling it to him. Yeah, no one's gonna watch that movie. We're not here to see that movie. And
no offense, no offense, but
no offense to Brian May, but I think that insulted him. And hey, look, Rami Malek won an Oscar for it, so what's that saying? I in a what if world, Sacha would have played Freddie.
Yeah, I would definitely have preferred that.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. David, I think that's all we have to say. Evan from Canada, thank you so much for sending us your question to us. We really do appreciate that. We got a lot of emails sent in to us, but man, your question stood out.
we saw it come in and we said, that's perfect. We
Yeah.
have to do an episode on that. So thanks so much.
You're welcome, Evan. Folks listening to us, I hope you enjoyed this bonus episode of Talking Pictures. We enjoyed talking about it.
Yeah.
It was a fun topic. It was an interesting one. I hope you listeners enjoyed us talking about it. Have I said that too many times already?
Did we talk about it?
Yeah, we talked about it. Folks, if you can, if you'd appreciate it, if you could give us some 5-star likes. It costs you nothing. It gives us everything. We do appreciate any help and support. We're just two guys sitting together, chatting movies. You can chat along with us if you want to chat. Folks, we're on Instagram at Talking Pictures Pod. Our email is talkingpicturespodcast1@gmail.com. If you've got any questions, you'll see all our links in the social media posts below. You can tag us, you can email us, you can ask us any questions, you can follow us, you can like us. We're not just on Spotify, we're on any other podcasting app of your choice. And as I said, it costs you nothing, gives us everything to just click the link, give us a listen, give us a like. No harm, no foul. If you've got any thoughts on what we should talk about in the future, and we got time to do a bonus episode chat, send us in. We'd be curious. Because of the subgenre of the musician biopic, I'm sure we're not the only ones thinking this. It's a bit of an out there thought, you know? Like, is there any challenges for us to talk about? Let us know in the links below. David, any final thoughts?
No, I think you summed it up all there.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, Brian.